Have you ever noticed that some women go through heartbreak and become bitter, but other women go through the same pain and somehow become stronger? What makes the difference? Because the truth is, life disappoints all of us eventually. The question is, what happens next? Woman to woman, today I want to tell you the story of two women, Hannah and Sarah. Both experienced loss. Both experienced disappointment. Both had every reason to become bitter, but only one of them did, and the difference changed everything. For years, Hannah believed happiness was always one relationship away, one more chance, one more beginning, one more person finally choosing her. When her marriage ended in her late 50s, she felt humiliated, not just hurt, humiliated, because she had invested decades into a future she thought was guaranteed. Suddenly, she found herself alone. The house felt different. The mornings felt different. Even the silence felt different. At first, she told herself she was fine, but underneath the surface, something dangerous started growing. Resentment. She resented her ex-husband. She resented happy couples. She resented women who seemed to have what she lost. Without realizing it, bitterness slowly became part of her identity. Every conversation returned to the same pain. Every new opportunity was filtered through old disappointment. Every new person was judged by what someone else had done years earlier. And the tragedy wasn't that Hannah got hurt. The tragedy was that the hurt never left. It unpacked its bags and stayed. Now, Sarah's story began differently, or at least it seemed that way, because Sarah also experienced heartbreak. In fact, her loss was even greater. Her husband died unexpectedly after 36 years of marriage. One day he was there, the next day he wasn't. The grief nearly broke her. There were mornings she couldn't get out of bed, birthdays she dreaded, holidays she wanted to skip entirely. She cried in grocery stores. She cried driving home. She cried when nobody was watching. But something interesting happened. Sarah never turned her grief into bitterness. And that's important, because grief and bitterness are not the same thing. Grief says something precious was lost. Bitterness says, because I was hurt, I will stop trusting life. Sarah allowed herself to grieve, but she refused to stop living. That distinction changed everything. One afternoon, a friend asked Sarah a question she never forgot. She asked, "Do you think your husband would want this to be the end of your story?" The question hit her hard, because the answer was obvious. No, he wouldn't. The man she loved had spent decades encouraging her to live. Why would she honor his memory by doing the opposite? That realization became a turning point. Slowly, Sarah began rebuilding, not replacing, rebuilding. There is a difference. She joined a book club. She started traveling again. She took classes. She made new friends. Not because she wasn't hurting, because she was. But she understood something many people never learn. Healing doesn't happen because pain disappears. Healing happens because life slowly becomes bigger than the pain. And woman to woman, that's the lesson most people miss. Freedom is not the absence of heartbreak. Freedom is refusing to let heartbreak become your permanent address. Years later, Hannah and Sarah attended the same community gathering. Both women were in their 60s. Both had experienced tremendous loss, but they looked completely different emotionally. Hannah still carried the past everywhere she went. Sarah carried wisdom. Hannah talked about what had been done to her. Sarah talked about what she was doing now. Hannah waited for life to repay her. Sarah had already started creating a new one. The difference wasn't luck. The difference wasn't personality. The difference was a choice. One woman allowed pain to become her identity. The other allowed pain to become her teacher. And that brings me to something important. There comes a point in every woman's life when she must decide what she will do with disappointment. Because disappointment is unavoidable. Betrayal happens, loss happens, heartbreak happens. Life rarely unfolds exactly the way we planned. But bitterness is not inevitable. Bitterness is a response, and so is freedom. The women I admire most are not women who avoided suffering. They're women who survived it, women who learned from it, women who refused to let it harden their hearts, women who stayed open, women who kept growing, women who kept believing that life still had something beautiful waiting for them, because it often does. Not always in the form you expected, not always on the timeline you wanted, but often in ways you never saw coming. And perhaps that's the greatest freedom of all, realizing that your story isn't over simply because one chapter ended. So if you're carrying old disappointment today, let me leave you with this thought. You don't have to pretend it didn't hurt. You don't have to deny what happened. You don't have to force yourself to be positive. But you do have a choice. You can let the pain make you bitter, or you can let it make you wiser. Sarah chose wisdom, and because she did, she got something far more valuable than revenge. She got her life back. And that's why she didn't get bitter. She got free. If this conversation spoke to your heart today, let me know in the comments. Have you ever gone through something that could have made you bitter, but instead made you stronger? I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, the strongest women are not the ones who never suffered. They're the ones who refuse to stay trapped there.